Hi, this is Alessio. I hope you're well, and I hope you're having a great weekend so far. In this video, we're going to take a look at the chart of Bitcoin and take a look at the potential long-term forecast for Bitcoin. And also, guys, something in this video you might find interesting is the potential wildcard scenario for Bitcoin and what this means for 2020 as we move forward. Now, guys, before we take a look at the chart of Bitcoin and what this is potentially telling us, let me first of all clarify a few points. It seems to me some of our subscribers, some of our viewers have been confused about what I've been saying over the last few months, over the last few weeks or months. So let me just set the record straight on that. So guys, in this section of the video, before we take a look at the long-term forecast for Bitcoin, I just want to make sure I clarify the calls or predictions I got right and the calls and predictions I got wrong. All right, guys? So first of all, the calls I got right. Some of you, again, some of our subscribers seem to be under the impression that I said I got out of Bitcoin after it crashed. All right, guys? Now, clearly, you guys know that that's not correct. If you've been watching our videos, guys, you know that that is not where I got out of Bitcoin. So, in fact, most of you know that I got out of Bitcoin here at the 8,000 level before the market crashed. So, in fact, here's the video on that. As you can see here, guys, these are my videos from back in March. So here's one of them. This was posted about 2 months ago. In fact, you can see this is one I posted. If Bitcoin breaks this level, I'm out. Trend reversal. And this was posted about a week or so after that. This one, I got out of Bitcoin, as you can see there. So what did I say in that video? Here it is. As you can see, this was the video that I posted on March 9th, as you can see there, after Bitcoin, as you can see there, broke that trend line. So that essentially was my video where I said I got out of Bitcoin. That was my bearish call on Bitcoin, that I expected a drop in the price. All right, so that was on March 9th before the crash. You'll see the price was at 8,000 at that time. And as you probably know by now, that was the right call. Why? Because immediately after that, actually just a couple of days after that, you can see what happened to Bitcoin. Bitcoin then soon afterwards crashed all the way from 8K all the way down to 4,000. So guys, that was the right decision. Now, let me also tell you what happened afterwards. Afterwards, you may remember, I put out a video and I said very likely the Bitcoin is going to drop down to 200 weekly moving average, which, by the way, it went below that level, but notice that it went quickly back above it again. And as a matter of fact, since then it's held this level above the 200 weekly moving average. You may remember in my video from the 27th of March, I made this very important point. Here it is. Listen to it. It actually went down to the level that we mentioned in the previous video, because in my previous video, I also said it could drop down to the weekly 200 moving average, the green line on my chart. And as you can see there, we actually hit that level, we went below it temporarily, and now we're back above it again. So you could say Bitcoin is at the moment just holding above that 200 weekly moving average, which is actually a good thing. It shows that bulls for the moment are in control. So let's hope that Bitcoin remains above that level, the 200 weekly moving average there. So guys, as you heard me say there in that video, I was very clear that as long as Bitcoin remains above the 200 weekly moving average, and you can see I put this in my video. Here's the video itself. I said as long as BTC holds the 200 weekly moving average, bulls are in control. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when someone says bulls are in control, are they bearish or are they bullish? Clearly, I was bullish. So my long-term expectation and my long-term picture for Bitcoin at that point was actually bullish. In other words, my expectation for Bitcoin for the next few months going forwards was bullish, not bearish. Okay, that was my video from March 27th. Again, my call on Bitcoin for several weeks now has been bullish on Bitcoin. Let me also play for you what I said recently in the Cointelegraph interview. So recently I gave an interview with Cointelegraph and I explained this chart on the CME chart of Bitcoin. And here's what I said in that interview. Listen to this.
So Alessio, what's your take on Bitcoin's short-term price action? What targets are you looking at right now?
There's some gaps in the CME chart we might fill. I think if I just show the CME chart here, there's this gap here on the CME chart we haven't even filled yet. So maybe we go ahead and fill that gap as well. It's quite possible. Bitcoin does have a habit of going back and maybe filling in some gaps. So that's why I'm looking at things at the moment. And the last thing I'll say is this: from an Elliott wave perspective, this rally is to me not corrective. It's actually impulsive. So we've got 5 waves already in this rally. This 5-wave rally tells me that we're in the beginning of a major. This to me is wave 1 of a longer term bull market in Bitcoin. If I'm wrong, fine. Then the market will tell us. Price will tell us if I'm wrong on this point. If we break support levels, but that's my main view on Bitcoin. Okay, guys, as you heard there in that interview, I was saying that I expected Bitcoin very likely was going to fill this gap that you see here, fill this gap over here on Bitcoin on the CME chart, which is precisely what Bitcoin has done since then. And by the way, guys, one of the reasons I've been bullish on Bitcoin has also been because of the fact that both the CME chart of Bitcoin, as you can see here, and the Bitstamp chart of Bitcoin have been forming this pulse signals. So this pulse signal formed here on Bitcoin towards the end of April, you can see here, and actually in the middle of April to the end. And I explained in a number of videos that based on what I was seeing on the chart, very likely we could see this pulse signal fire to the upside and push Bitcoin higher, which again is something we've seen so far in Bitcoin as well. So far, so good. Now, let me just explain to you guys that I did not get everything right. Obviously not. I mean, nobody can get everything 100% of the time correct. And that's not even required. So I explained to you so far what I got right on my calls. Let me explain to you what I got wrong. So what I got wrong was that after the crash occurred, okay, so after the immediate crash in the price of Bitcoin down to 4K, when Bitcoin bounced from here, so the initial bounce that occurred in the price of Bitcoin, to me, that was not impulsive. That actually looked corrective. All right, guys. So I have to tell you guys with absolute honesty that when Bitcoin dropped down into these lows and then it bounced up to the 21 moving average, to me, the structure, the pattern on that bounce, all right, guys, as you can see, this pattern looked to me like an ABC structure, not like an impulsive 1, 2, 3 or an uptrend. All right, guys. Now I have to tell you, even if I went back in a time machine to that point in Bitcoin, I couldn't possibly have formed a different opinion on Bitcoin, all right, guys, because the structure just didn't look to me like an impulsive 1, 2, 3. However, I did change my mind about that. The reason I changed my mind about the structure on Bitcoin, I got very bullish on Bitcoin, was after the S&P, the stock market, gave us a buy signal. So again, in our member videos, I got heavily bullish on the stock market, as you probably recall. In my previous video last week about the kiss of death, you may remember I explained in a lot of detail why I got bullish about the stock market. And in fact, guys, the fact is that in our member videos, we've been bullish now on the stock market and on Bitcoin for several weeks. And in fact, even though we didn't catch the exact bottom, so even though we did not catch the exact bottom on the stock market and the exact bottom on Bitcoin, it doesn't matter because you don't have to catch the exact bottom to make money in any market. In fact, Peter Brandt mentioned this. Peter Brandt said in my interview with him that you don't have to get the exact bottom or the exact top in the market. All you want is the meat in the middle. All you want is that 60% chunk in the middle. All right, guys, like a sandwich or like a hamburger. And that's precisely what we've done so far. All right, guys, I hope that clarifies things so far in this video for you. Let's take a look now at the chart of Bitcoin. So here's what's interesting about this. What is interesting about this chart, guys, is actually what's happening on the weekly chart. Let's take a look at the weekly chart, the longer term focus here on Bitcoin, which is really fascinating. So why am I looking at this chart? Well, here it is, guys. I want to show you this chart here. This is about the wildcard scenario. I mentioned this to you back in July of last year in 2019. In fact, here's the video for you. There it is. This is the video that I posted back in, as you can see here, it says over here, 28th of July, 2019. And I showed you this chart that you're seeing here, the wildcard scenario. Now, let me explain to you some things about this. So let's go to that chart. Let's go on this here. So what I was saying back then in 2019, in July 2019, was that I expected Bitcoin was going to have a much bigger correction, much more deeper correction than everyone was expecting. You see, guys, everybody was expecting back then. If you recall, when Bitcoin was skyrocketing last year in 2019, you probably remember that almost the majority of opinion out there among the herd, the herd mentality was that Bitcoin was not going to have a pullback. Everybody was saying, almost everyone was saying that there won't be a pullback. Bitcoin will just keep going straight up all the way to, 20,000, 18, 20,000, 30,000, like that. It's parabolic rise. That was the herd mentality. That was the majority opinion at the time. We disagreed. You may remember in my video, I disagreed with that. I said very likely what's going to happen is a wildcard scenario. What does a wildcard scenario mean? It means instead of a continued movement up, instead, I was expecting the pullback not just to the 21 EMA on the weekly chart, but a bigger drop, as you can see here. That was my call back last year. I was expecting a bigger drop back down to the 6,000 to 5,000 levels. All right, guys, as you can see here, I was looking for a C-wave drop into the 5,000 levels and then a move higher from then into above 10,000, eventually above the 14K, 16K, eventually up to 20,000 or 30,000. So in other words, guys, my expectation was the wave 2 pullback, so if that was wave 1 last year, then the wave 2 would be much more deeper into 5,000, at the very least to 5,000, okay? And then completing wave 2 and then starting the next major wave 3 higher for the longer term towards 20,000, 30,000, 50,000. All right, guys, I hope that's clear so far. Now, if you compare this chart to the weekly chart right now on Bitcoin, obviously my timing was not right. So my timing for the bottom on the C wave was not quite right, as you can see here, guys. If you just compare this chart, you will see that if wave 2 is completed here, so if we just draw this on this chart, if that's our wave 1, that's our wave 2, and let's say wave 2 is bottomed here and we're starting wave 3, let me just mark this on the chart. 1, 2, and we're starting now likely wave 3. Of course, wave 3 could take us eventually in the long term higher, much higher, above the 18,000, 20,000 levels. All right, guys, this is a longer term picture I'm taking a look at here. So if you just compare this chart here, 1, 2, and by the way, this would mean, if I just label this on the chart, that would mean likely this would be our A wave, B wave, the B wave bounce, and the C wave of our wave 2 has likely completed here back in March. So that big drop that occurred here would likely be our C wave of our wave 2. Okay, and if the C wave of wave 2 is completed here, which I think it has, by the way, and again, I've been saying this, if you go back to my videos back in early March, I said, again, as long as Bitcoin remains above its 200 weekly moving average, then bulls are in control. And bulls have been in control since then, as you can see here. So bottom line is this, guys. I personally think that this wildcard scenario I've been talking about since last year has likely now completed here in this picture that we're seeing here, in this, again, in this chart, Elliott wave picture we're seeing here on the weekly chart. So in other words, what I said was going to happen last year in this pattern, obviously, again, guys, I'm not saying my forecast was correct 100%. Of course not. My timing was off. So again, I was expecting last year that the C wave of wave 2 would complete in November of 2019. That was my expectation at 5,000 levels. All right, guys. Obviously, that's not quite correct. We know that because the C wave of wave 2 took much longer to complete. In fact, Bitcoin had not bottomed as I'd expected and anticipated last year, but in fact, this was our B wave bounce to be followed by a C wave drop, which as you can see here. And in other words, guys, this means on the balance of probabilities that our wave 2, if this is our wave 2, has likely completed and bottomed in March of 2020, not as I'd expected in November. So that is the Elliott wave picture as I have it at the moment on Bitcoin. So that is the way I see it, guys. I believe that the Elliott wave wildcard scenario that I mentioned to you last year, even though my timing was not quite correct, even though the bottoming formation and the target level, my target level for the wave 2 was 5,000. Obviously, we went slightly below that level. We went spiked below into the 4,000 level, as you know, this year. So even though I didn't get everything correct on the wildcard scenario, having said that, at least we can have a better perspective on Bitcoin now, because we can say at least with some degree of confidence, perhaps, that it's likely on the balance of probabilities that we may have actually completed what looks potentially to be our wave 2 and then starting our wave 3. Now, let me just say this, guys. I am not yet 100% confident, and actually I won't be. There's no such thing as 100% confidence in the markets. There are no certainties, there are no guarantees in the markets. So let me make this very clear. I am not as yet confident that we are in wave 3 going towards 20,000, 30,000, unless and until Bitcoin takes out an important resistance level. All right, guys. So currently we're trading about the 8,873 level here by the looks of it. But here's the thing, guys. Unless and until Bitcoin takes out an important level of resistance and a target level, which I have in mind, I don't yet have a full confidence that this is wave 3. Also look forward to seeing you guys in the next video update. Cheers. Bye for now.